This is Flow2D software build 25, video number 3. We're going to cover Flow2D results and review scenarios. So each of these have their own documentation. So if you click on the documentation, you can see that right here. And again, how do you get to this? If you want it on the home page, you just click Learn What's New, and that brings you right to this this newsletter. And you can see right here we have the results tool, which is pretty awesome. I really love this tool. Robson knocked it out of the park with this one. So what you can get is you can click the results tool reviewer, and you can click on a channel left bank line or a channel cross section, and you can get the results, plottable results for that data set. Okay, so this would be your left bank line. You can get maximum velocities as they move downstream, water elevation, left and right bank elevations. All of these parameters can be plotted right here. And in the channel results, well, this is just what one of them looks like. So, and for your cross sections, you get different types of data. Okay, so this comes from a file called hycross.out cross section. That's your channel number. It makes it red, and then you can see this is what you're seeing: discharge, depth, velocity, fluid. Those are the variables that you can plot. And then, of course, you can screenshot them, whatever you want to do. I think you can export them as, I think if you right-click them, you can export them as a file. As you can see right here, I'm going to pop this one over here and maybe make it a little bit bigger. And then this thing can be moved around, and you can zoom in and out. And I think you can export it as different kinds of graphics. And all of this is possible through a Qt graph. So that's our plotting tool, is Qt graph. It's really awesome. Okay, now what's next? I think we were on to hydraulic structures. Oh, sorry. Yeah, we're just looking at this documentation. So you get your hydraulic structures. You can do storm drain results, which would be nodes and conduits. You can get the storm drain results for the nodes and the conduits. And floodplain cross sections. Not only can you get the floodplain cross section results, but you can also get the floodplain cross-section results even if you don't have a cross-section in that location. That's new. So you can either read it from hycross.out, which means you've pre-processed it and run it, or you can run the new tim.def.hdf5 cross-section file, tim.fpexec.hdf5, and you can build a cross-section and plot the results over that cross-section using this new file. So I don't know if you saw it here, but if you can do right here, you can hyperlink this table to get you to learn how to set that up to get that output data. And this is new documentation to learn how to use the time-dependent grid output, and it changes over the years, so we've tried to set it up like to give you some ideas on what output the switches will give you, and some backward compatibility. Okay, so I'm going to hit back. And what else do we have? Grid cell results. So if you have a time series output like timdep.hdf5 or timdep.out, it will read the results for your grid, and you'll get depth, velocity, water surface elevation, or whatever is plotted, and it'll do that for individual grid elements. So that's pretty nice, actually. If you're doing storm drain modeling and you're wondering why you don't have any water on a grid element, you can track it with this tool. It's really actually quite useful. Now, we also have project review scenarios. And I think this has some documentation. I'm not sure how extensive it is, but let's check it out real quick. So it might be faster to do the documentation than it would be to like load a project and start to try to review the scenarios. So what you do is you load up your scenarios. In this case, I'm comparing the 100-year 6-hour to the 100-year 24-hour, but you could compare like alternative 1 to alternative 2 to alternative 3 to the baseline. You could do that. And what you want to do is anything that's part of your project, let's say your project doesn't have hydraulic structures, just leave it unchecked. Your project doesn't have a storm drain, just leave it unchecked. You do need your time-dependent data must be in timdep.hdf5 to get this to work. So you check all of the available options, and you process the results into a single HDF5 file. And then when you click on the results tool, you will click on, let's say, it looks like this time we're using a grid element. This time we're using a grid element. And you can see that scenario number 1 is blue and scenario number 2 is red. Now this is the 24-hour versus the 6-hour, so that's why they are shifted in time. But you can compare those two runs to each other, even though they're shifted in time. Okay, and this would be the hydraulic structures shifted in the two scenarios compared to each other side by side. This would be the channel. And what I typically do when I'm running scenarios is I put it over here because I can, I can move this however I want. Well, I don't think we want velocity because obviously that's bad, but let's try. So we want left bank, right bank, and then that would be S1, water surface elevation, and that would be S2. Where's our S2? Water surface elevation. And so you can see that they are basically the same water surface elevation for these two results. Not sure what we're comparing here. Oh, this is comparing build 25 to build 23. So the documentation is comparing the 100-year 6-hour to the 100-year 24-hour, and this example is comparing build 21 or build 23 to build 25. That's why they're exactly the same. That makes sense. Anyway, it's an excellent tool. So you load your scenarios, right? You load your scenarios, you process your data, and then you use the review tool to get access to the input, or I'm sorry, to the results. So you can see that would be the results, between the difference between build 23 and build 25 for that conduit. All right, what's next? Let's review scenarios. Breach hydrograph tool needs to be its own video, but we have a few more minutes until of time, so let's maybe see if we missed anything. I think we missed a tool called FLORunner. Okay, yeah, let me see. I'm just going to close this one. So let's see what kind of project we have that we can do with FLORunner. Yeah, I guess we have these two. All right, so let's do FLORunner. Come back here. So after you install, and let's get rid of that. After you install build 25, it will add FLORunner executable to your Flow2D Pro folder. And you see I also have GDS and Mapper installed. You will not get GDS and Mapper with build 25 installer. You have to install those separately. I'm going to show you that real quick. If you want to install those separately, you come to the documentation and you go to installation and setup and you come to the GDS and Mapper section. It'll show you how to install those. Okay, but I have them because I ran that installer. But you get FLORunner. So if I go to QGIS and I do the run button and I run FLORunner, what it's going to allow me to do is it's going to allow me to connect to individual runs. So for example, I could connect to the self-help and runs, and this would be 6. And I think I just point to cont.dat. If I'm doing them individually, I think I just point to cont.dat. Let's find it and click open. And then this goes to 1. Okay, and then I do the next one, and that one would be 24-hour. And again, I just hit CO real quick to do that. And then that goes to 2, and they will run in serial. And then over here, so you don't need to do any of this stuff down here. Then down here, I can either do text mode, graphics mode, or batch mode. I would kind of prefer to do batch mode, and you do it silently. And then when you start the modes, you get 2 things. This information gives you, like, not only does it give you percent full, but it kind of tells you where you're at in the summary.out. I don't want to run it because I don't want to mess up all my results, but it'll move forward in time and allow you to run and tell you how much of that run that it's currently on is complete. It reads the summary.out and reports it right here. So it's a really sweet tool. I highly recommend it if you need to run multiple runs and you want to just leave them overnight, not mess with them. I highly recommend it. It's also set up to work with multiple domain processor, but again, we're not going to cover that in these first videos. That's a more extensive system. Okay, now that gets us up to 10 minutes, so that will be the end of this video.